everybody. Final thoughts time for Unlock Mystery Adventures, which are episodes 4, 5, and 6 in Space Cowboys Escape Room in a Box series that are still absolutely fantastic. Jen and I, we've played through all 3 of these now, and we've had a blast. Now, I'm not doing any kind of run through or talk through for these because, well, you can hit that eye up in the top right corner screen and go watch the one I did for the first 3 games in the Unlock series, because really nothing in the core formula of these have changed. Everything that I talked about and demonstrated in as spoiler-free as possible ways in that original run through is still applicable. So it didn't really feel like I needed to open these boxes up and spoil anything about them. Suffice to say, they are a blast. They're a lot of fun. There are a couple of key differences, though, so I will talk about them right now. The first one has to do with the app. Now, if I go ahead and start it up and jump into just the tutorial, because like the first 3, each one of these has that little very simple tutorial room that you have to get out of. So let's go in here. But if you may remember, the original one, if you played them, one of the concepts in the first 3 of these games were certain cards you'd come across called machines, I think is what they were called. Yeah, machine cards. And the tricky thing about those was that, just getting this started, the tricky thing was they tried to replicate some kind of escape room gadget machine that you'd run across in real life. But they were implicitly hamstrung by the nature of, oh, this is just a card, and the best you can do is just figure out, okay, well, because of this, this, or this, I might combine this card with other cards in certain ways. And they worked, but they were always kind of just a little bit, everything else was super smooth. You know, the notion of, oh, look, I need to type a code, type in the codes, hear little multimedia things, and figure out how cards work with each other. They all worked great, but in the original 3, the machines were always, they were important, but they just didn't go as smoothly. And that's why I'm so happy to see that for these ones, the app has kind of gotten an upgrade. Now, I'm going to show you the machine that you will come across in the tutorial. It is a replacement for the machine in the original tutorial, and it's really simple. It's not a big spoiler, but basically, when you come across a machine in the game, you basically have this machine entry. You choose that, you pick whatever card number it is, and you type it in, and then it tells you, hey, here's something you need to know. Here's how this particular machine is going to work. The timer is still going. If you've got this, go ahead and go forward. This is really weird, by the way, that there's an X here. You hit that, you think, oh, I'm not going to do the machine, but actually it's just saying just close this and go to the machine. That was kind of dumb. This should be an OK button, not a close, go back button. But anyway, I hit it, and I'm presented with the machine. Now, in the original 3, I'd see this machine and I'd see a whole bunch of numbers all over it, and I'd have to figure out something I could do to make those numbers do something to combine or do something with a card. Now, when I come across a machine in any of these adventures, it's an actually interactive thing that I can reach out and touch. This machine is pretty simple in that I can tap a different combination of buttons if I want. And if I could, it's kind of hard to do upside down. There we go. And so is this what I need to do? Do I need to tap those 3 buttons? Let's try it. Wrong. Of course that's wrong. And so it basically just makes the world come alive a little bit more. That's probably the biggest constraint of this series overall is everything is abstracted to just a series of pictures. And there are other escape room in a box systems that are on the market where no, you actually touch things, you cut things up, you write on things, you do all kinds of cool fun stuff, and Unlock all of the physical machinations of what you have to do were all cerebral. You just had to imagine them in your head. Now that's different. Now they're using the app for little interactive puzzles. The ones that come in here are really, really simple. In all honesty, I would have liked to see them do a little bit more. Wrong again. But I think it's a good first step, and it gives me a huge amount of excitement for this series going forward, because it means by requiring the app, there is so much more that the Unlock series can do to really make their worlds come alive. Games that rely entirely on physical things, well, that ups that means you've got to come up with really Clever ways. Sometimes some of these systems, they actually have mechanical gizmos with keys just sticking out. Some of them you have to cut things up with scissors and various things to actually build tools. Here, this series could have a million different tools that do a million different things because it all happens digitally. And I think that's brilliant. I think that really gives the Unlock series a leg up over pretty much all their competition. Now, there's one other thing that I think is really interesting about these ones that's an evolution of the first three, and that is the fact, well, actually, that's not true. I was going to say, for all three of these, they kind of bust you out of the room. In the original one, all the things you did very much felt like, oh yeah, I'm going through a very heavily themed room, or maybe there's a couple of rooms that I'm going to go through and solve all these puzzles. That's definitely true for the House on the Hill. The House on the Hill still has that feel. But the Nautilus Trap and Tonopal's Treasure, these two things are much bigger and more expansive. Instead of just feeling like, I don't think it's going to be too much of a surprise to realize that you will get into this submarine, this Nautilus. And in this game, instead of just feeling like you're in a couple of rooms, you feel like you've got the whole thing to explore. And this one, instead of feeling like you're in a few rooms, you've got an entire island to explore. Even though, it's really, really clever how they get a lot more mileage out of still the same basic number of cards. I think there actually are more cards in this one than any of the others. I believe that's the case. But it's so much more expansive, and it means these ones feel a little bit more like the games from some of our childhoods, the old point-and-click adventures from Sierra Games and LucasArts, where your Full Throttles and your King's Quests and stuff like that, where you could have big sweeping adventures that cover huge amounts of lands and tell epic stories. Unlock is starting to work on that. They're kind of shedding their background of no. This, you should feel like you're just in a room and you're trying to get out. Now, the stakes and the scope is much, much bigger. And you know what, folks? There's a phone call, so I think I'm going to end it right there and say thanks for watching. Again, hit that I if you want to see how these work. Otherwise, have a very, very nice day. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye.